All are here. Okay, great, great. So, okay. Today I will be giving a small intro, you can say, regarding the AXI bus. Have you heard of AXI?
Yes.
Okay. AXI is actually a AMBA bus. AMBA is a basically advanced microcontroller bus architecture, generally used uh, with different socks and for data transfer basically. And uh, you know about interconnect, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When we talk about interconnect, right? So interconnect is something which is routing your traffic, or the you can say a data traffic, from one source to other destination. Okay. uh, so there can be multiple of inputs, multiple of sources, that is what we call an input, and multiple destinations. And your interconnect is something which will, depending on the routing process, that can be uh, address mapping, you can say, depending on what address we are issuing from the initiator. uh, it will route towards the master, no sorry, the slave, that is your destination. So this interconnect basically uh, includes multiple type of inputs. Like it can be an APB is also AMBA bus. AHB is also one of, can be one of the input, and AXI, and other. Basically, what we saw in SOC are these type of inputs and outputs of the interconnect. Okay, so sometime it happens like we have sent a transaction through AXI interface, so interconnect will convert it into the APB interface and send the transactions. And a sometime AXI to AXI to HB, or sometime vice versa. Like it can be APB and the transaction is being converted to AXI interface. So we have a controller inside the interconnect as well. Okay. So, but in many socks, generally we use AXI. I mean, throughout my experience, I didn't see any sock which does not include AXI or AHB. And AXI is the main bus they are using in many socks. I mean, uh, Intel, or you can say Qualcomm, they are using AXI. So today focus will be AXI bus, that how the AXI protocol works, what type of signals and why we use it. So I will share my screen. Let me know once you see it. Mm, Can you see my screen?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Now is it visible?
Yeah, sir.
Okay. Okay, so the content that we will be covering in this session is more like introduction to Amba, introduction to AXI architecture, the channel definitions, what channels we have in AXI to write and read, and the channel signals we have, the basic type of transactions, the handshaking process. That handshaking process is something which will tell you, which will which is defined by this protocol, that will tell that the write or read transactions are need to be sampled now. And there are some dependency as well. These dependencies are basically what we call protocol. These are the rules which we call the handshake dependency. Okay, then we have addressing options, control signals, all the control signals that will be used, what type, that will tell what type of transaction do you, how many means are you sending, the master is trying to send towards the slave. Okay, so it can be how many beats you want to send, how many what amount of data you want to send, that is the size of the data you want to send, or what type of data you want to send, what type of bus it is. You are you trying to write on a FIFO, are you trying to write on a memory? Okay, so that will be told by these control signals. And the type of access, type of access means it can be atomic access, later we'll come on it. Response signaling, that this response signaling is basically uh, what we say is relative to slave, that that will tell the transaction is completed, or the transaction is broken, or you can say a slave error has occurred, means a slave does not write any transactions which was requested by the master. Okay, there is ordering model, that multiple writes you are sending, so what order will what we say, the interconnect will send towards the slave. Then we have a data transfer, clock, and reset signaling. All these are a sort of some characteristics of AXI. We won't go much into clock, reset signaling, or low power interface. We will discuss more over just a general architecture of AXI. Then we come up, start with the AMBA. So AMBA is advanced microcontroller bus architecture. So these are generally means different type of bus, and this is complete what we say a sort of unit that decide that different type of protocols, which a standard protocol I'll say, which will help you to achieve a high performance transactions at different type of chips. So currently we have many buses from Amba like APB, then we have AHB, then we have AXI. Every of them have the different type of versions, like AXI has AXI 3, AXI Lite, AXI 4, AXI 4 Lite. Now we have shifted to AXI 5, AHB 5, and then we have ACE. ACE is extension of extended version of AXI. Okay. So let's start with AXI 3. AXI 3 is extensible interface, advanced extensible interface protocol. So before AXI, we had ABB and AHB, which were more like we don't achieve high performance there, or there was, you can say, uh, the high frequency system cannot use them. When you talk about, when you talk about what we say, a transactions between a memory, or you can say a cache memory, is very is at very high speed, that you even from your laptop, if you're trying to access anything, it is something which is uh, very within nanoseconds. Okay, so for that we need a very high performance bus. APB and AHB has some restriction, like AHB uses pipeline architecture. So pipeline architecture in AHB is cause a low, means you can say a drop in frequency of, or you can say performance of that transfer, because in pipeline architecture, what happens, you first initiate an instruction, then you wait for one cycle, and then you get data on the next cycle. But in AXI, these things are resolved using parallel mechanism. Like address, we have multiple channels, address goes in one channel, data goes in another channel, those things goes in parallel. Okay, so we, in that overclock cycle is being saved, and the high performance is achieved. Okay, uh, is it clear? I mean, am I clear with my communication, or should I go slow, or are we good here?
Yeah, it's nice, sir.
Okay. Moving ahead with key features, like I told you that we have a separate addresses, controls, and data phases, and we have a support for unaligned data transfers. In APB or AHB, there is a constraint that we cannot send unaligned data. Data width is like we have a data bus, which is a particular size, which can be of any minimum of 1 byte, but in it is multiple of in multiple of bytes. Like it can be 8 bits, it can be 16 bits, it can be 32 bits. Okay, so to the power, you can say. So in those we have to issue what we say, uh, aligned addresses when we are issuing the transactions. Aligned addresses means it start from 0, the next address should be uh, 4, 8, C, and 16. But here in AXI, any any address can be sent, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have a bus based transaction, which will, bus based means which tell, uh, I mean, the bus tells two things, like what type of address is need to be sent, and another, what type of transaction, what type of memory you are targeting. Like if bus is of three types: fixed, increment, and rep. So increment, fixed is basically used for writing on a FIFO. Okay, so in fixed bus, the address remain the same. In increment bus, address increment by one, or you can say depending on what size you have sent. Like you're targeting in 1 bit, you are targeting 4 bytes. So address will be 0. The next address will be 4. So every address is been stored by 8 bit of data, means 1 byte. So if you are sending 0 address, so the data will be stored, will be 1 on 0. Say the second byte will be stored in address 1. The third byte will be stored in address 2, and the fourth byte will be stored in address 3. Okay. So further we have separate read and write channels. Again, like in AHB, we didn't have the different channels, so we cannot perform read and write at the same time. But in AXI, we can perform read and write at the same time. Okay. Uh, we can send an outstanding transaction because of the same thing. We have a different channels, but in But in AHB we have to wait for the response, then only we can send the outstanding transaction, means the next transaction. While in AXI we don't wait for the response. We can send multiple outstanding transactions because we have a different channel for writing, for getting response back. Request and response channels are different. We'll cover it later. You will see a schematic that I'm talking about. Yeah. So there are five independent channels for write and read, three independent channels for write transactions, two independent channels for read transactions. Okay. So three. Why do we have three independent channels for write transactions? Because when a master performs a write, it has two things to send. One is address, one is data. Okay, the response will come from slave side. Okay, so the direction of that response will be from slave to master. And while two channels on which the master is sending the address and the data will be from master to slave. Okay, so that's why we have the AXI3 has three channels for write, because uh, the direction of the response channel is different. And for read, master only issues the read address. Okay, while the slave sends the data and the response at the same time. So we have only one channel for read data and read response. That's why we have two responses here, two channels for read. Okay, is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hmm. Okay, so this is the read architecture of AXI. See what I was talking about, that master will issue read and control signals on read address channel, while the read data and read response will come on a read data channel. So we have two channels for read. When we talk about writes, so master has to issue two uh, things. One is address and one is data. So we have two channels for write and read, write address and write data, and one channel for response coming from slave to master. That's why we have three channels in write. Uh, this is again the same thing which I told you, that read address channel. This channel carries all of the required address and control information for transactions. And the read data channel convey both read data and response information from slave back to master. This is write address channel. This channel carries all the required address and control information for a transaction. And write response channel, the response channel provides a way for a slave to respond to completion of the write transaction using write transaction completion signal. Write data channel, again this is from master to slave.
Sir, please go slow, sir.
Sure. This is the same thing. This is the same thing that I have described. Okay. Like these are telling what three channels are there. One is address channel, one is response channel, and one is data channel. That's it.
Okay, sir.
Okay. These are the global signals of the AXI. A clock on a reset signal, which is a reset, and will be reset. So these are given from outside of the you can say a chip reset and chip clock to the AXI. Okay, this is right channel signals, right address channel signals. So if you can see, we have a these number of set of signals that are given from the master side towards the slave, or you can say towards the interconnect. Okay, when I am talking about interconnect or slave, I am indirectly or directly talking about slaves only. If we have an interconnect here to send the transaction further to the slave, So for this master, the interconnect is the slave. Okay, is this thing clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this AW ready is something which will tell the master that the slave is ready, and I'm ready to means the slave is ready to accept the signals, or you can say accept the request. So master has to send the transaction, or you can say has already sent the transaction, so that whenever the slave get free, he can just give a ready signal high and can sample these transactions, these signals, to perform the transactions, to perform the write or read. Okay, so this AW ready coming from a slave, and these signals are going from master to slave. Okay, so a
So, I want to ask.
yes, sure.
So, if the slave had already sent the IC write ready, so why we
Mhm.
need IC write valid?
Write ready and write valid, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens, it's master duty to tell the transaction that I am sending, okay, is valid. Okay, and uh, what slave duty is, whenever he gets free, it has to accept the signal. For that, he has an indication which is called as ready signal. Okay, so whenever these two are high, AW ready and AW valid are high, then only this is a uh, transaction that will get performed. Otherwise, these two are these either one of them is low or both are low. In that case, no transaction will get performed. These need to be high at the same time for one clock cycle at least.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
This is clear, right? We'll come up to the when we talk about the handshaking signals. So you that things will get clear. Just consider in it this way that uh, master sends a request. It has a way to tell the slave or interconnect that this request is valid. For that, it has a AW valid signal, and a slave duty is to accept that signal. So what it will do, it for accepting the signal, he has to tell the master that I am ready to accept your signal. So either you can send me the signal, or any signal is present on it, on the interface, I will sample that signal. That's the work of slave, and having a AW ready with it. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And this concept of AW ready or AW valid is present in each and every channel. Okay, so when we talk about data channels, again we have a these set of signals from master to which are going master to slave, and this is from slave to master. I will discuss these signals later, but these are the set of signals which are present on the data channel, and these were the signals that were present on the address channel. Okay, again we have a W ready and W valid concept here. Then we come up on a response channel. On the left side, these are the signals that are coming from the slave, and these this is the signal that is been issued by master. Now, suppose your master has already sent the transactions. These these two transactions are sent. I mean, this is the same transaction with two different channel, and that is accepted by a slave. Now you have sent a write. Now slave is performing a write on its memory. Now the it's slave duty to respond that the write was successful or not. Okay, The response, B response, is something which is what we say, which tells what type of response is there. I mean, is the write was successful, so it will give you okay response. If there is a, if you say, I mean, if that memory does not exist, or if you are trying to write on a read only memory, so that is something which is decode error or a slave error. So there are these two types of error as well, which is decode error or a slave error. So that is also been given by the slave or indicated by a slave to the master, that the write you are trying to perform cannot be performed, and we have a error there, that either the memory does not exist, or you are trying to write on a read only memory or a reserved area. Okay. Again, there is a B valid and B ready. Here, the B ready and B valid are reversed, because these channels, signals are what we say, sent by a slave. So now slave has the duty to tell the response I am sending is valid or not, and master has to be ready to accept this response. So master will tell that I am ready to accept the response, and slave has to tell the response I am sending for your transaction, the right transaction that we performed here, is correct or not. So for that it raises a valid signal. So whenever these two valid and B ready is high for one clock cycle, so the master will sample the response at master side. Okay, hope this is clear.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Any doubt regarding these write channels?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. We can skip this. This is not required. Okay. Now these are some basic. Let's see what happens. These are some basic write transaction which I was talking about. See, this is uh, what we say. This is write address channel. This is write data channel. W data. This is response channel, B response. Okay. Now suppose master issues a write on T1, or you can say previously, but at this time the W ready get high. Okay. AW valid. AW ready coming from slave, AW valid is coming from master. So I just told you that uh, these two should be high for one clock cycle. So sampling, the slave will see that at my AW ready high, we have a AW valid high for one clock cycle, and will sample this transaction at its end. Okay, it will see that we have an address with address A, and at T2 it will sample this address. Now master sends the data signal. In the data signal we have the number of datas D, A0, A1, A2, A3. Okay, so A0, A1, A2, A3 is more like at slave side. These are four beats actually. Means the length that master has sent is four length. Four length means we have four chunks of data with size, with AW size. Okay, so we see here four chunks of data, and W last tell that this is the last chunk of my data that I wanted to send, and for every, what we say, for every beat, this is one bit. A0 DA0 is one beat. This is another beat. This is another beat. This is another beat. So for every beat we have uh we have one valid signal. We should have one valid signal. So for every valid signal, we have to the slave has to raise W ready signal to sample it. Okay, so it sample it here. The first beat is sampled at T4. The second is sampled at T6. The third is sampled at T8. The fourth is sampled at T9. Okay, once this is completely sampled, so the response sent by the slave is at the next clock cycle, which is sampled by master at T10. Okay.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Okay, great. Another thing I wanted to tell, since we have different channel for address and data, there can be a possibility that uh, here if you see the data is being sent at next clock cycle when the address is sampled, but hey, it can be a possible scenario or a valid scenario if the master issued the data as well at the same clock cycle. I mean, this DA0 would have started from at this point at T1, or like the address has been started. That is also a possible scenario in terms of AXI. Okay, this is called parallel architecture. Okay,
Yeah, okay, sir.
okay. Now this is the read transactions. What will happen in this? So in read transaction, AR address is sent, AR valid is high, AR ready. So at this T2 point, it will get sampled, and we have one channel for read data and response. So at this channel, we receive a data from the slave and the response from the slave. Response is being not showed here, but at this point of time at T6, the first R last will tell the last beat which is sent by the slave. So this is T6 at the first beat is sampled by master at T9 the second bit, the T10 the third bit, and this is the last bit T13. This is how the read will be performed. Overlapping read transactions. These are like master have issued two reads and without waiting for the response. I mean, two writes has been two reads. You can say two addresses are being issued at two different locations, but it is waiting. It does not wait for the uh, read response to get complete or read data to get received by the master. So this is called overlapping, you can say, or outstanding, you can say. The response are in the later cycles. Okay. Any doubt in these four waves, three waves, sorry.
Yeah, I think no, sir.
Okay, so this is the, I mean, this is the first read data for address A, DA0, DA1, DA2, DB0 and DB1 are for read for address B. Okay, so the handshake mechanism that I was talking about is, I mean, a valid transaction, or you can valid transaction that is need to be sampled by slave or master. For that, the ready and the valid signal are need to be high for at least one clock cycle. Each Each of the five independent channels uses a two-way valid and ready handshake mechanism. The information source used the valid when valid data or control information is available on the channel. The destination uses the ready signal to show when it can accept the data. The transfer occur only when both the valid and ready signals are high. This is what I told you. They are need to high for one clock cycle at least. Okay. It is not permitted to wait until ready is asserted before asserting the W valid. Okay. When you what does this line means? That if master want to perform a valid transaction on a slave, and it issued a valid signal with number of address and data signals. Okay. And what it does, it has asserted valid signal for 2 clock cycle, but during those 2 clock cycle your ready does not get asserted during that time. Okay. So transaction will not get performed in that scenario. The master has to wait for ready signal from the slave. Okay. So that a valid transaction can be performed. In short, this is the only scenario where the handshake will get performed. These are need to be high for at least 1 clock cycle, and your master does not know which is his slave when you talk about the transaction being sent through the interconnect or mm, high level SOCs. So in that case, it is slave choice. Whenever he gets free, he can put the ready high. Okay. Ready does not need to stop for valid signal asserted. Means slave will say that I am free and I will put my ready high. Uh, Whichever master is asking for the request at that time with his valid signal will get the access of that slave. Okay. But if master want to perform that transaction, master has to keep his valid high until unless the ready is not asserted. Okay. Another scenario can be a ready signal is being high for a very long time and valid being asserted for the very large last clock cycle. Okay. So this is another possible scenario. Yes. Another possible scenario is both valid and ready signal are asserted high during the same clock cycle. Okay. These three can be a scenario that ready is asserted from a very long time. Play is free. Complete his all tasks and put the ready high that I'm available. Who want the access can get the access, and master just put the valid high at 1 clock cycle. The access will be granted. One is the master already been sending a transaction with valid high and waiting for slave to get free, so it keeps the valid high and the transaction will get complete when the ready will get high for 1 clock cycle with the valid. So this is the complete handshaking process. There are some handshake dependency when to avoid the deadlock situations. Like we have two different channels for uh, for read. So think yourself like for read, the response or the data from the slave will only be sent once the address, or you can say the request, is being received by slave. Okay, then only it will send the data and the response. Before this double sign, double will tell that R valid can only come when slave has already received AR valid and AR ready signal. I mean, these two handshake are already over. Must wait. R valid must wait for these two signals, AR valid and AR ready. Okay. And again, the ready can wait for AR valid or can't, means not necessarily can wait for AR valid. And same goes for R ready. Can wait for R valid or can't wait for R valid. May, my UCC may wait. Okay. So this is clear why R valid and R ready should come only after when the slave when we receive R valid and AR valid and AR ready.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now this is for write transactions. Like I told, in the write transactions, we have two channel. One is address channel, one is data channel. Both master can issue a transaction in parallel. It does not have to wait for address to come first and data in the next cycle. It can be a possibility that address and the data can come at the same time. But again, the response can only come when the slave has both the thing. When slave has to store data inside a memory, and where to slave those data will be told by the address. So the B valid or the B ready can only come up when the slave has address and the data channel information. Okay, is this clear for the right?
Yeah, okay, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, now let's talk about the type of signals that control the transaction, AW size or AR size. So, like I told you in that waveform example, that master can tell in one transaction how many beats. See, when we talk about a transaction in XY terms, right? So we call one request as a burst. Okay, and each burst is called as uh, each burst has number of beats. Like I'll tell you. If you see this example, the master issued a transaction at address A with number of data these, means data 1, data 2, data 3, data 4. So this complete set of 4 transactions is called a burst, BURST burst, and each data inside it is called as beat, BEAT, beat. Okay, and the size of each bit will be decided by AR size. Okay, is this thing clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, So AW size or air size specify the maximum number of data bytes transfer in each beat or data transfer within the bus. So these are always multiple of or you can say the power of 2. It is start from 0. So minimum number of byte that master can have is only 1 byte. Means it cannot if he has to send the transaction, it has to read 1 byte at least. And the size, air size can be of uh, maximum of size of w data width. Suppose your data bus is of 32-bit, so only valid AR sizes or AW sizes are 1 2 and 4. Only 0 1 2 are the valid values for those. AR length will tell number of beats in one burst, so it is always plus one value. So 1 2 3. So minimum of 1 beat and 1 beat will be sent or requested from the master side. Bus type will tell you what type of bus is that. Fixed bus for FIFO type, incremental is for incremental burst is for normal sequential memory, or wrap burst is for cache line. One is say reserved for what we say for future purpose, and normal thing that will cover in the next. Do you have a spec for AXI?
Yes, sir.
No.
None of you have it.
No, no, sir. Can you share with us in the group?
Yes, yes. I'll share you with the with you all guys. This is a spec I have. Yes. So how, like, you can imagine a memory in your mind. Uh, that how the transaction is being performed in AXI or a slave memory. So, like, suppose you have a 32-bit, the W data size is 32-bit, uh, and you perform a write. If you see the parameters here, the burst has 5 transfer, means total of length is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Length is 5, you can say. Starting address is 0. Okay. Starting address is 0. Each transfer is 8 bits. That is, the size is 0. 1 byte we are trying to access, and the transfer are on 32-bit bus that I told you. The W data is 32-bit. Now the data will start. The burst is increment type. Okay, the burst is increment type. So what will happen if you see here that this is a 0th address from where the data will start. The data will start filling from 0. Then comes the second transfer, second beat. It will store at 1. Then on address 2, then on address 3, and then on address 4. This way, this is a complete one row of memory. And on each address, we used to store 8 bit of data. Okay. So 8 bit is being stored here. Since we are accessing the AW size is 8 bit, that is 1 byte. If it would have been 16 bytes, so these two columns would have got filled. Okay. In the next transfer, these two would have covered. In third transfer, this would have covered, and the next transfer, this would have covered. But one thing to be noticed, this is 0th address, 0, 1, 2, 3. In the next transfer, the address is not, this is not like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. This is like 0. This is the first transfer occurred at. The second transfer 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. 0, 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. Now 4 is start. When these 0, 1, 2, 3 is over, now the fourth lane, the fourth register will be used, you can say. These are 8 bit registers, you can say. Okay, let me tell you. You can see the screen, right? You can see the screen, right, guys?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry about my drawing, I'm not good at it. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Okay, now when I talk, so when I talk about the size is 1 byte, the length is 5. Okay, the starting address is 0. Okay, and W data is 31 down to 0. This is the data bus width, that is 32. Okay, now if it would have been 64, this, if you see here, we have divided this 32 bit bus into 4 bytes. You can say a 4 register. So every register we used to fill 8 bits. This is how the memory works. Okay, so here we'll store 1 byte, here we'll store 1 byte, here we'll store 1 byte, here we'll store 1 byte. But it says length 5. So we'll have 5 beats. 5 beats. The first beat have 1 byte that will be stored at address 0. The second bit will be stored at 1, then 2, then 3, and these 4 bytes are now completed. Now the next set of uh, bus of registers will be used. Okay, so now the address become 4, 5, 6, 7. Now the fifth bit will stored at this point at when yes, when the fifth bit will come, beat will come. Okay, is this clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. Now we see the another example of 64 bit. Okay, and you are trying to access 32 bit of data. 32 bit of data with the starting address as 4. Okay, and we have 3 transfers. So okay, now if you see here, the starting address was 4. Okay, and the size is 32 bit. Okay, sorry, 4, and the size was 32 bit, that is 4 bytes. So there is a concept which is called aligned and unaligned. Okay, you know about this concept? Have you heard about this concept before?
Uh, can you uh, can you explain that about it?
Sorry.
So can you explain for us about
Yes.
actual
Yes. Okay. So if you see, we have a the size was given as 32 bit. Oh, 32 bit, and the starting address was 4. This is starting address means this is what issued by master. Okay, so if you divide, and the bus width was 64, if you divide 64 by 8, how many register we need? Like in 32 we need 4, right? Last time as we saw. In 64 how many will need? Can anyone tell? Hello guys, can anyone tell how many register will need?
4 by
Sorry?
4 by.
No, means every register is 8 bit, right? Every register is of 8 bit.
I E.
Yes, so we'll need 8 registers. Okay, so we need 8 registers. Now, and the addressing will occur 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have left 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Okay, so this will complete your 64 bit of bus. Okay, now the starting address was 4. So and you have 32 bit of data at a time. Okay, so the data will be stored, 32 bit will be stored, means 4 registers at a time will be used. So at this, your first beat will be stored at this registers. Okay, so 4 to 7 will be occupied at the first time. The next time, okay, the next time, for the second beat, we have following addresses: 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. So next time, the next 4 will be stored at these, and the third time, the third in the third transaction, this will be used, uh, C, D, E, F. Okay, if you see here, so this is 0 to 7, 8 to F. Sorry, 0 to 4, I guess. 0 to 4. 0 to 4, this is the first lane, and 0 to 3, and 4 to 7 is the second lane. So the first beat will be stored at this point. The another beat will be stored from uh, 8 to B, and then C to F. Okay. Yes. Now here comes the aligned unaligned concept. Now if you see here, the address is 00, the transfer size is 32 bits, the bus type is incrementing INCR, and the 4 transfers are there. So the address will start from, sorry, okay. So if you see here, uh, in 00, uh, align address, what is align address? Let's talk about align address. Align address is equal to start address divided by size. Integer. Okay. Or you can say into size. So this is your align address. Like suppose in the second example, your address was 1 and the transfer size is 32 bits, that is 4 bytes. So 1 divided by 4 is not your into 4. So you will get 0 into 4, 0. Okay. So that means 1 is not aligned address. So this is unaligned address. One is unaligned address, and for one, the aligned address should be 4. Okay, 0. Sorry. When in case okay, so 1, 2, the register bus with 0th address get missed. So only three bytes will be stored and 1 byte will be missed. In the next transaction, complete 32 bit of data will be used. Okay. Similar case of 07. Okay, similar case is 07. That when 7 is there, let's take this scenario. For if suppose this was 7, 7 divided by 4, 1, 1 into 4 is 4. Okay, so 4 was the aligned address for 7 with size 4. Okay, so the data would have started from 4, but since it is an incremental burst and the start address is need to be taken into account, so that's why it start from 7, but we misses 3 bytes of data. So out of 32 bits of data, only 8 bit is being stored in the slave memory. From the next beat, complete 32 bits will be stored. Okay. So this is
Okay,
the
sir.
basic concept of addressing in the, you can see in this, what we say, in the spec regarding this, and there are few uh, address calculation techniques are there, so you can do that as well. Then we have a wrap transactions. This is what we talk about increment, but in case of wrap transaction, the master always issue one aligned transfer. It cannot issue 1 7 type of transaction. It has to issue depending on the size, what size divide. So zero, like suppose uh, 4 was the size. So multiple of 4 should be the address that will be sent from master. Okay. So 0, 4, 8, 12, then again 10. These should be the address that master should initiate. Okay. That is because like we were getting lost with number of bytes in incremental bus, right? Like this, you see we have missed 1 bit here, we missed uh 3 bytes here. But in case of rep, this is not the scenario. In case of rep, what happens, master itself issue the aligned transaction, so chance of data getting lost get reduced. And there is a concept of, in wrapping there is a concept of wrap boundary. Like suppose the transaction was started from 4. Okay, the start address was 4 and 32 bit need to be stored. So if you see here, the transaction starts from 4, 4, 5, 6, 7. The shaded part is one which is not used. Okay, the white part is the one which is on which the data is being stored in that transfer. The first transfer, the data will be stored at 4, 5, 6, 7. In the next 8, 9, A, B. In the third, C, D, E, F. Now there were 4 transfer. Uh, if you see, we already missed this lane 0, 1, 2, 3 was never used. So what will happen? The slave will store the data uh, I mean, depending on the wrap boundary, F was the wrap boundary for this transaction, and it will wrap back to address 0 since 4 bytes need to be stored. So it will utilize this space as well, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is the advantage of wrap. Means it utilizes the complete memory space while writing on the slave. Okay, so this is the purpose of wrapping. And so these are some address thing that we have discussed. I'll share you this spec. There are I'll tell you. Yeah, there are some address calculation techniques, burst addresses. So you can look into this. Uh, Initially, if you want to calculate the address or the wrap boundary, you can calculate on the basis of these calculations. Okay, you can look into them, and if you have any doubt, you can let me know. Further, this is the control signal AR cache. This AR cache is basically used to tell whether your transaction is cacheable or bufferable. Cacheable means you can modify the transaction or not. You can bufferable means uh, bufferable means that the interconnect can delay the transaction to its final destination. Like master is issuing one transaction, there is a interconnect sitting between the actual slave and the master. So if that is bufferable, so the it is interconnect choice that it can initially on its own can send the transaction towards the master and later can send the transaction to the slave, not at the same time. It is interconnect choice. Okay, cacheable is we can uh, the transaction can be the modified. I mean, when you talk about size and length, these things can be modified depending on the cacheable bit. This is the only thing you need to learn about it. And I want to see logged access response signaling. Yes, response signaling is uh, OK response, X OK response, slave error, decode error. So the OK response is when everything is gone fine and we the right data is being performed correctly, the correct written to the memory correctly, the read response and the read data is being received is correct or not. So we have a OK response. Then we have XOK for the exclusive transfers. Exclusive transfers you can read from the spec. I mean, that is not majorly required in the socks, but you can go through it or from the spec, not much to do in it. Then slave error and a decode error. Slave error is something which will tell that that is something a read only memory or writing on a read only memory or reading from the write only memory or similar type of things. Reserved area, writing to a reserved area, reading from a reserved area. So that is denoted by slave error. Decode error is for if that memory does not exist in the sock. So or there is a address decoding issue. So we receive a decode error for it. Okay. Ordering model, yes. Ordering model is important. There are two things, out of order transaction and data interleaving. So each channel is provided by IDs. AR ID, AW ID, WID, RIDs. So on the basis of it, the XI, what do we say? XI has the ability to send out of order transactions. Okay. Uh, like suppose, let's see this example. See, for every transaction, we have different IDs provided to each and every transaction. I mean, with every address, we have different IDs. Okay. So, whenever we have different IDs, so slave can respond back. Like, suppose we have different IDs A08, B2, E. Okay. So, what will happen? The slave has the ability to send the response out of order. I mean, it can send the response for B first, then it can send a transaction for 0 and then A. Okay, if you see 0 A B, then E and then B. B has a burst length of B has a burst length of 6. Okay, so and burst length of 6. Okay, so if you see here, the number of beats, I guess 1, 2, 3. Yes, 3 beats of B got the response. Then we received E first, but we were expecting 2 to come first, right? Or in fact, B has to complete the remaining 3 beats. But only 3 beat response has been received. Then we receive responses for E. Then we receive responses of B again, the remaining responses 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then we receive the response of 2. So this is called out of order transactions. Okay. If you see basic example, this you can see here, like A11, A21, A31. Okay, so when reading from the slave, right, this is AR address. When reading from the slave, the response or the data can be written in this way. Like for is the slave started returning for D21, then there is a wait cycle, then D22, D23. Okay, so first we receive the response for A21, then it receives a response for A11. All the A11 data is received, then A31. The condition is that all the three should have a different IDs. If it would have been the same ID, like these three transactions have the same ID, like 111, so it is necessarily need to be done that the response or the read data should be given by slave in order only, in order only, not out of order. Like if they would have the same ID, so in that case the read data for A11 should come first, then A21, then A31. Okay, so for out of order transaction, it is mandatory that ID should be different. Here we have written as well if the IDs are different. This is out of order thing. Then we have read data interleaving. For read data interleaving is, if you see here, we have here we had a wait cycles. Okay, so there can be interleaving, or you can say like for A21 3 beats were expected, so there were a delay between the first and 2 beat. During this time the slave might send the beat of another transaction, another address. So D31 has been inserted here, and then the remaining two are being sent, but these should be in order. These beats should be in order. These cannot be like D21, D22, and D23 should come in order. It cannot come in D22 or D23 and then D21. They need to be, the all the greens one should be in order. All the D31, these light blue can be in, have to be in order. Then goes for yellow one. Okay. So this is data and read data interleaving. This is out of order transactions. Normal right ordering. Same goes with write as well. Write is more like uh, for int purpose. I mean, where it is right. Interleaving can be done in write, and draw a form. Okay, the out of order are not supported in write, but interleaving can be performed. Like uh, 821, 823. Okay, this is something which is, no. This is incorrect. It cannot send A23 first. A21, A22, and A3. Okay, this is. Yes, does not support data interleaving. If a save does not support data interleaving, only the master must issue the data in the same order. Yes, this is wrong. I mean, in this case, like A31, this 8, this should be, they should not be here. I mean, A21, then A22, and then A23 can only come. Then A12, A13. Yes. So this A23 is incorrect here. A23 cannot be here, but we can interleave between those three transactions. Means the beat can be interleaved, but that should be in order only. Okay, then we have a strobe concept. Strobe is basically to tell out of, like, suppose when we are accessing 64 bi- bit of data bus, but we are only using size 32 bit, so we can use the strobe signal to tell uh, which byte is valid. Like for 64, when we are accessing 64 byte of 64 bit of bus, then we have to send complete 64 bit of data, but out of 64 bit of data, only 4 bytes are valid. So to tell them, we use this strobe signal. Okay, that is, again, we have a calculation for it. You can go through in that spec. We have that calculation here. Narrow transfer, we already discussed this. N-aligned transfers. This is few examples. You don't have to go through these examples. The examples are for the narrow transfer already be given at this in this spec. You can check these. Yeah, these one in N-aligned transfers and rep transfer. So they are given here. So you can just check these conditions and calculate the addresses. So yes, this is not required for your understanding. I mean, this is clock reset signals. So they have told about the plus minus of hold and setup timer for each rising and clock edge at reset and valid signals. So this is the same for each and every protocol. Low power interface is not required for your understanding. I mean, this won't be this is not majorly used everywhere, so this is not required. So I'm skipping this. Okay, so this is the basic introduction about the AXI. Uh, do you have any query regarding the things we have discussed today?
No, sir.
Okay, so I'll forward you this spec.
Uh,
Yes, yes. Sorry.
so so for the net, I just let's say for the net day,